Hey guys, mahal everyone, 40 the Broadway Saiyan here. Welcome back to my YouTube channel with another video on Dissidia Final Fantasy Opera Omnia. In this one, we're going to be talking about the next upcoming character event that should be going live fairly soon to the global version of the game. It wasn't officially announced yet by Square, but if we take a look at the JP version timeline, we know that Agrias Oaks, the Holy Knight from Final Fantasy Tactics, is the character event right after Deuce. This is a character that I've been definitely looking forward to. I have a huge bias actually towards Final Fantasy Tactics, and I remember showing her off before last year on one of my other videos for Global because I was super stoked that she's actually in Opera Omnia, but finally the global version of the game is gonna get her. So let's take a look at what this character event brings us. So Agrias arrives to global. She is Final Fantasy Tactics devoted Holy Knight, boasting high stats in attack, initial brave, and defense, and she has an affinity for the green crystal. When we're playing through this event, we have an opportunity to earn 1 copy of her 15 CP Coral Sword, as well as 2 copies of her 35 CP Mithril Shield. For synergy, we have Faris and Ash joining her, and the bosses are going to be the Silver Seers. Now let's take a look at Agrias' abilities. So her first ability is called Knight's Pride. This is going to be healing the party's brave based on initial brave. It grants 1 stack of a unique buff called Brave to Agrias for 6 turns, and the stacks max out at 3 stacks. And if you guys are wondering why did they call it Brave, it's a little confusing because Brave in Opera Omnia is, you know, the value that we gain before performing an HP attack. Well, in Final Fantasy Tactics, there are 2 statistics called Brave and Faith. So that's the reason why I see they call this unique buff Brave. Now, Brave increases in stack for every HP damage sustained by any party member once per turn. So remember, it caps out at 3 stacks, and every time either Agrias uses the ability or somebody on your party, including Agrias, is dealt HP damage, that stack increases. And Brave increases max Brave attack and debuff evasion rate, as well as granting Brave and HP regen to all party members. But wait, if the buff is only being applied to Agrias, why is it being applied to all party members? Well, the cool thing about this unique buff is that as long as it's active on Agrias, everything else is applied as an aura, meaning an invisible buff to your ally. So then that way it's not taking up an actual buff slot. So that's actually really cool, and this is one of the reasons why she was a really powerful character upon her release in the JP version of the game. I like how her unique buff applies as an aura to the rest of your party. And the default uses of this ability is 3, which is rightfully so. It's pretty powerful for what it does. Her second ability is called Judgment Blade. I actually prefer it to be called Stasis Sword. For those of you that are unaware why I'm calling it that, when they first released Final Fantasy Tactics in the US, there was a little bit of a mistranslation, so they called it Stasis Sword until they updated it in War of the Lions, but I still preferred it as Stasis Sword rather than Judgment Blade. So Judgment Blade, or Stasis Sword, is going to be a 1-hit AoE melee brave attack with a low chance to inflict paralysis for 1 turn. So that's pretty cool, and I do like how it has the paralysis feature. It kind of plays off of how the ability was in Final Fantasy Tactics, where it has a chance to inflict stop. It is a low chance because it's AoE, but hey, that's pretty cool. And the default uses on this ability is at 7. So now we're going to take a look at her actual crystal passives. So her crystal passive at 5 is called Knight's Pride Light. She gets a lower action delay for that ability. CP cost 10, definitely want that. At C level 10, she gets HP damage attack up, so she gets an attack increase after taking HP damage. I probably wouldn't give this to her because why would you want her taking HP damage in the first place? Even though it does increase the Brave stack, I still wouldn't put this on her. 15 buff speed up. Surprisingly, her speed is actually kind of low, so you do want to give this to her. At 25, she gets Judgment Blade Power. She gets a Brave damage increase for that ability. You definitely want that. At 30, Brave Guard up. Defense increased when Brave is over 50%. Save your CP. You could definitely invest in something else, as defense is not a prioritized stat in Opera Omnia. At 35, she gets Knight's Pride Charge. Additional usage of that ability. You do want that, especially since Knight's Pride actually has a low default usage. At 40, Buff Boost. Max Brave increased while buffed. Definitely want that. Increasing her Max Brave means she deals more damage. 45, Judgment Blade Charge. want that as well. More uses for an ability means more longevity. At 50, Brave Holy Knight. So max Brave and attack is increased as long as that unique buff Brave is active. You definitely want that as well. That way she's dealing more damage. At 54, buff boost and speed up. Max Brave and speed increase while buffed. Very, very good, especially that speed up helps her out a lot. At 55, Knight's Pride extends. So let's see how this ability improves at C level 55. So this time when you use it, it grants 2 stacks of Brave instead of 1. It increases that total stack to 5, so now you could stack this up to 5 times. The Brave heal potency based on initial Brave to the party is increased, and now she also Brave heals herself based on max Brave. It also deals HP damage now after she uses this ability, and her HP attack is changed to HP attack plus, which heals her own Brave based on her max Brave before she actually deals HP damage. So very, very good passive for this ability, and the CP cost is going to be 15, which is pretty standard for both the 55 and 60 passives for characters. At 58, she gets Brave Base and Boost All. So this is going to be an aura, again, that's applied to the party, which is pretty cool. Initial Brave and Max Brave increase for the party, as long as you have that unique buff Brave active, which you will be if you're going to be using Agrias. Very, very good passive. And finally, at C level 60, Judgment Blade Extend. Let's see how this improves her second ability. So it's going to get an overall Brave damage potency increased. The total number of Brave hits is going to go from 1 to 3. When the Brave unique buff is active, this changes Judgment Blade to Judgment Blade Plus. And Judgment Blade Plus deals AoE HP damage after those Brave hits. However, it is split evenly amongst multiple targets. So now she has an option to be able to deal HP damage to multiple targets. And it also changes her Brave attack to Brave Attack Plus. And let's see what this does. So first of all, it heals a party's Brave based on attack, and then she inflicts that one-hit melee Brave attack. So very, very cool. Another option for her to act as a Brave battery. So I really, really like her kit. Very, very good character, and the CP cost for that is at 15. So now let's take a look at her artifact passives. Buff boost 1-star, 2-star, max Brave increase by 2% or 5% while buffed. That's not bad. I actually like that. And for once, we're seeing a character that actually doesn't have an artifact passive that is based on defense, because I never really understood why a majority of characters have an artifact passive option for defense. Brave Holy Knight up 1-star, 2-star, so she gets an effect increase on that level 50 passive by either 2% or 5%. Very, very good. Knight's Pride Brave gain 1-star, 2-star. She gets a Brave increase by either 5 or 10% of her initial Brave after she uses Knight's Pride. This is optional if you want it. If you want her to have more of a Brave increase, then yeah, go ahead and put it on her. And then finally, Judgment Blade power up 1-star, 2-star, a Brave damage increase for that ability by either 5% or 10%. Now the top priority passives for me, Max Brave plus 330. Her Max Brave is actually slightly on the lower side, so definitely want this, so that way you're capping out as much HP damage as possible. Attack plus 108, that way she's hitting much harder. And then Brave Holy Knight up 2-star. Now you could argue that maybe Brave Holy Knight up 2-star should be at slot 1 priority rather than Max Brave plus 330, but I prefer the Max Brave plus 330 only because she does have low Max Brave to begin with. So very, very good artifact passes for Agrias available to us upon her release. Now let's take a look at the weapon banner. So with this, we're going to get 3 new weapons, all for Agrias. First being her 15 CP Coral Sword. It lowers Knight's Pride's action delay. It also extends Brave's duration to 9 turns versus 6 turns, and it also increases the Brave heal potency based on her initial Brave that she provides to the party upon using this ability. At 35 CP, we're going to get her Defender, which is going to be increasing the Brave damage potency for both Judgment Blade and Judgment Blade Plus. She's also going to be getting a Brave damage potency increase if she's using this ability on a single target, and this time we also get an increase in the success rate of inflicting paralysis. It's a small increase, but still, that's better than nothing, especially paralysis is a very powerful debuff. Her EX weapon is called Save the Queen. I know Beatrix's is also called Save the Queen, so who knows, maybe they might change this for global, but it was called Save the Queen when she was released in Japan. It equips the EX ability Hallowed Bolt, and I actually prefer to call this Lightning Stab, again, playing off of the original translation when Final Fantasy Tactics first came out. So Hallowed Bolt or Lightning Stab is a 4-hit AoE melee Brave plus HP attack. The AoE HP damage is going to be 100% inflicted to all targets, and the Brave damage potency is going to be increased when used on a single target. It can inflict a unique debuff called Silence for 1 turn. silence prevents the usage of magic brave attacks, including magic brave plus HP attacks. However, I do want to point out that in order for you to have access to that silence debuff with this EX ability, you have to have her EX weapon at least limit broken 2 out of 3 to have access to that debuff. Now, should you pull on this banner, it does also include Ferris, who is a great debuffer and dispeller, and Ash, who's a fairly good support unit as far as increasing magic and physical damage. I'm gonna say yes. For me especially, I love Final Fantasy Tactics. This is a banner that I've been looking forward to come out to Global. This is a very good banner to pull on. I will say it right now without spoiling too much that Agrias did get a rework and a level 70, which makes her even more of a great investment should you decide to pull on this banner upon its release. So I would definitely highly encourage you guys to pull on this banner. She is a very powerful character. I mean, look at her. She is a mix of a brave battery, plus she has access to different debuffs, plus her buff is actually an aura to the party. She's very, very good, so I highly encourage you guys to, if you have the resources available, to pull on this banner for Agrias. Alright, so now we're going to talk about the bosses, which is the Silver Seer. So there's going to be 2 of them present. I'm seeing a pattern now with bosses, us from the Fang event, and then now to the Deuce event, and then now the Agrias event. There's like 2 of them all the time. These bosses resist fire, thunder, earth, wind, and dark elements. So be aware of who you're bringing because they do resist 5 elements. However, they are weak to water. They both have the standard boss chase value of 40. So they have 2 different stances, which is essentially what you want to watch out for when you're going up against these bosses. Grounded stance and float stance. So when they're grounded, it allows them access to this ability called Flare Star, not Flare Stare, Flare Star, which is essentially a magic AoE brave plus HP attack. It hits pretty hard, so you want to be careful with that, and it does inflict HP damage. The plus side to that is at least you're going to get that stack up for the brave, as the brave unique buff on Agrias, as long as you're using Agrias for this event. Now their float stance is initiated when they use an ability called Start Casting. So when they do that, they're going to float up in the air, they're going to remove all debuffs, and they're also going to recover their brave. And on the EX version of the stage, this will also grant them several buffs. So this is why Ferris is a great synergy character for this, because she could actually dispel if you have her passives. So you want to watch out for float stance. And essentially when they're in their float stance, they're about to launch some crazy attack. So if you have Agrias' EX ability and you have it limit broken 2 out of 3, you can use that silence debuff, so then that way they're not able to use that magical brave ability. Alright, so some final thoughts and tips before approaching this event when it goes live on Global. Should you choose to invest in her, and I highly encourage you guys to do so, have your green crystals ready for Agrias. I will say this, green crystals is going to become a little bit of a rarity because a lot of the good characters coming out are green crystals. But if you have some available, which I've been saving mine, definitely invest them on Agrias. Ferris and Ash work well due to synergy. Ferris is exceptionally well because, like we mentioned, she can dispel buffs with her cannon fire, and she could debuff at the same time, and she also deals water damage, which the Silver Seer bosses are weak to. Now, I will say this, do not use Beatrix, because the boss resists thunder. And it's a bit of a bummer, because I want to see Agrias and Beatrix on the same party, especially they're wielding an EX weapon of the same name, and they're both Holy Knights, so it would be really cool to see them in the same party, but don't do it for this particular boss fight, only because Beatrix will more so hold your party back because she does wield the thunder element and the bosses resist. The launch team could work because we are still in the launch meta, and a great team setup that you could use would be Kate Sith, Selfie, or Deuce, because they're like the top 3. They're like in the top 3 as far as like brave battery support, and then you want Lael and then Agrias if you're running that launch setup. Especially Agrias is also a battery herself, which is pretty good. You could also use Setzer. The way I would use him is wait for the boss to actually use their float stance, and then afterwards use his freeze joker. That way you're inflicting the freeze debuff on them, so then that way they're unable to raise their brave any further, especially when they're in that powerful stance. And then as far as summons go, since these bosses resist 5 elements, you definitely either want to go with Leviathan. Shiva could be great too to increase your party's speed, and then Bahamut is great overall because he's non-elemental and his blessing is very easy to use. Alright guys, well this concludes the discussion portion of this character event for Agrias. Again, I'm super excited, and I know a lot of people are super excited for this character's upcoming release. Now we're going to go ahead and move forward to my JP account. I'm going to give you guys that gameplay visual showcase. That way you kind of see what to expect for the upcoming Agrias event for Global. Let's go ahead and move forward to that. Alrighty guys, so following the discussion for the upcoming Agrias character event that's going to be going live hopefully soon within the global version of Opera Omnia, here we are with my JP account. I'm going to be giving you guys a visual showcase of what's to come for this event. Now what I'm going to be doing is going into the Agrias Lost chapters on my JP account. I'm going to go ahead and tackle the level 100 difficulty, as that's probably going to be around the same difficulty level of the EX stage that we're going to be seeing for the character event. A few things I want to point out. Agrias did get a rework, so did Ash and Ferris. Ferris and Agrias can go all the way up to level 70 as well. So the version of Agrias that you're going to be seeing is definitely going to be a lot more powerful compared to the one that we're going to be getting in global, but still, nonetheless, she's still an amazing and powerful character. And she also just does have her EX plus weapon. I do have her EX weapon, EX plus already, not fully max limit broken, but still, it's going to be a lot more powerful than what we're going to be seeing. But still, I'm excited for this character. Let's go ahead and dive into this event. Don't forget that the bosses, which is the Silver Seer for this event, do have 5 elements that they resist. So this is the reason why I'm taking Bahamut. Alright, so we're definitely going to try to hang on to our abilities here, but since Ferris actually has a lot of uses on her abilities, I don't mind actually going in and using some of her abilities here. And then let's get the buffs off with Ash. And then let's go ahead and use Knight's Pride with Agrias. That way we can take advantage of the auras that it provides to the party. And let's take a look at Judgment Blade Plus, because remember, when she's under the Brave Unique buff, it is going to turn into the Plus version, which has that AoE HP damage. And remember, Judgment Blade does hit harder against a single target, provided that you do have the passives active on them. All right, let's take a look at Waterwhirl again. Again, remember, these characters are going to be performing a lot more powerful in this visual showcase, because they did get their reworks and stuff like that. So something to look forward to, especially if you like 3 of these characters. So remember, these bosses resist 5 different elements. They are weak to water, and the one thing you gotta watch out for is when they go into their float stance. When they're grounded, they're not too threatening, but it's when they start floating and they got all their buffs, that's when they're really threatening. So we're gonna go ahead and open up here with Cannon Fire, get some debuffs on them, so that way they're a little bit easier to deal with. And let's get another stack of Brave. There we go. With Ash, let's just go ahead and use her abilities here. Now, something that I do want to point out, and this was brought up to me by one of my Discord members, is that both Ash and Ferris are of the blue crystal. Now, because they're both of the blue crystal, there is a small possibility that, you never know, Square Enix might change out one of the synergy characters, kind of like how they did for the Fang, where they took out Tidus and they put Zell in. So you never know, they might change Ash out. If they did, one of the characters that I would like to see them change her out for is maybe Vanille. Maybe Vanille would get her awakening. And the reason why I say Vanille is because she can also dispel and debuff if you have her passives. All right, we're going to take a look at Agrias's, her EX ability, which is Hallowed Bolt or Lightning Stab. Remember, it inflicts that unique debuff called Silence for 1 turn, where essentially the targets who are afflicted by this debuff cannot use magical Brave attacks or magical Brave plus HP attacks. So we know that Silver Seer A is probably going to use Flare Star, which is that magic AoE Brave plus HP attack. So now when you see their turn pass, they're just not going to be able to do anything. So Agrias is really, really good for control. Like, she really works hard to control the enemies. You know, she either paralyzes them or she silences them. And as you can see, their turn passed because they were silenced. All right, let's go ahead and go for Judgment Blade or Stasis Sword. And as you could see, that Silver Seer passed their turn because they were silenced. So very cool, very, very powerful character indeed. And again, like I said during the discussion, a character that's worthy of investing in. She's a very, very powerful character. All right, so we're gonna just go ahead and just continue to apply damage, and once we summon, we should be able to get amplified damage. This is what I'm gonna do. This is a ability that Agrias gets later when she can get her up to level 70 crystal passes. Essentially what that does is it improves the rate of applying debuffs. So now when she paralyzes, as you can see, it's literally guaranteed. So now I just made those 2 Silver Seers pass their turn again. Alright. So we should have summon fairly shortly. Okay, so now, as you could see, A went into its float stance. Essentially, it recovered itself from break. Both of them did, so they do that at a certain HP threshold. Now, because we have Ferris, we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna dispel those buffs, because we don't want them to be buffed. And we're gonna reapply some debuffs, and then what we're gonna do here with Agrias is we're gonna go ahead and improve her debuff rate again, and we're gonna apply paralysis again. Alright, so now they're paralyzed, and we have summon. Let's go ahead and summon. Alright, we're gonna go after B. And we're gonna go ahead and use Hallowed Bolt. Let's go ahead and use Water Whirl Plus. And remember, for summon, since these bosses are weak to water, you could opt to use Leviathan as well. And they don't resist ice, so if you want to go with Shiva just for that speed, she can help out as well too. We gotta make sure that we still have that Brave buff. Okay, we don't have the Brave buff, so I need to reapply that to everybody else here. Got carried away a little bit talking about all of these cool abilities for Agrias. Forgot that we didn't have that active anymore, so let's go ahead and activate that again so the party can benefit from it. Alright. So when they do that, that's the indication that they're gonna go right back into their grounded stance. Which we want them grounded. They're a lot easier to deal with when they're grounded, for sure. Okay, hopefully we have Agrias's Hallowed Bolt ready again. Okay, we have it ready. So what I can do here is I'm just gonna go ahead and go for another stack of Brave. So he's paralyzed. This one's not, so he's gonna go right back into his floating stance. Alright, so they're both dangerous again, so let's see what we can do here. Let's do this. Silence them, and then let's go ahead and use Cannon Fire. Nice. Let's go ahead and target B. And then let's go ahead and use Judgment Blade. Hopefully we can get the paralysis. Okay, no paralysis, but that's fine. I really like targeting Ash. And one thing I do have to say is these bosses are a bit tanky, kind of like the ones from the Deuce event. So you want to keep that in mind when you're entering this event. These double boss battles, they tend to be really tanky. Okay, so it's floating again. Okay. We're in a little bit of a pinch here, but let's see what we can do here. Let's see if we don't die. Okay, so one's about to die. Okay, and one dies. When one dies, remember the other one essentially goes into it's essentially enraged. Okay, so we're probably gonna lose Ferris here, which is unfortunate for this gameplay showcase, but hey, at least you guys have an idea of how powerful they are. Oh wait, never mind, I forgot about the debuffs. Okay, so we're okay, I thought we were gonna lose her there. Alright, so we have Hallowed Bolt, or Lightning Stab, so this is good. Perfect, alright. Whew, that was close. But as you can see, they get really scary because when they're at low health, the Silver Seers really like to abuse their little floaty stance where they increase their Brave by a certain amount, or they essentially recover themselves from break and they buff themselves, so it can get a little scary, but that is going to be the gameplay visual showcase for the upcoming Agrias event. Again, hopefully you guys found that pretty useful and fun to watch. Once again, thank you guys for watching my videos. This is 40 the Broadway Saiyan. Stay tuned for the next one, and mahal, everyone.